Welcome to Sales Momentum, the podcast designed to fuel your growth and accelerate your success in sales. I'm Howard Wolpoff, your host and guide through the ever-evolving world of sales. Selling isn't just about closing deals. It's about strategy, relationships, and continuous improvement. In each episode, we will bring you expert insights, proven techniques, and real-world experiences from top sales professionals. Whether you're a seasoned closer or just getting started, this podcast will help you sharpen your skills, build momentum, and hit your targets with confidence. Let's dive in and take your sales game to the next level. Welcome back to Sales Momentum. I'm Howard Wolpoff, your host. And today we're going to be talking about sales in a different light. We're going to look at different types of partnerships that people sell, and you have conduits who help these deals actually happen. Have you ever walked into a place of business and you never expect a logoed wine bottle being placed on a table with that clearly is a partnership that they've created, and wondered how did they do that? And in different strange places, you have this happening all the time. And I'm very fortunate to have a guest who is an expert in how this actually happens and facilitating making these deals happen. Her name is Diane Karle. She's the CEO and co-founder of theFACTOR agency. And Diane, welcome to our conversation.
Howard, it's so much fun to be here. So thanks so much. And I'm excited to chat about alcohol.
Which is always a fun conversation to have. And but it's a very interesting way that you sell alcohol, so to speak. And you've been developing these types of deals for a very long time within your career. And but now you've really become an expert in helping companies make this kind of statement through marketing and branding. So how did you get involved with this role with alcohol?
Yeah, and I'll take it even a step back from that because the wine license, like so having a team, the Yankees or other with their label, their marks on a bottle of wine, I got into it because really I saw that the alcohol space, first starting in wine and coming from, as you know, I've been in the sports and entertainment business before that, right? So I saw that wine was a category that the sports and entertainment industry couldn't figure out how to monetize across the board. They were looking at it from traditional sponsorships, right? Like having, Yellowtail as a sponsor. But what's interesting about wine and alcohol when we go into stadiums, there's not just one sponsor. It's not Coke or Pepsi, right? And so one of the ways I went in to show the teams how they could monetize this is one, I saw that wine drinkers were going to games. The second piece of it was the teams and their marks were obviously so powerful. So then I was like, why don't I go to Major League Baseball and say, how are you dealing with your licensing agreement in the wine category? So that's really how that started, was really looking at it to say, one is what was the problem or where the gap was? We always hear about the sales gap or the opportunity gap. And I saw that there was a place where it wasn't being monetized. And so selling that was almost easy because they didn't necessarily know how to approach it, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. And just to take a step back for further description of what you're talking about. So basically within sports, you obviously, anyone who's gone into an arena, into a stadium, you see signage, you see logos all over the place. Those have been sold. There's a contract for the year. So sometimes it's just a sign, and sometimes there's a different partnership. So for example, if you see Coke or Pepsi or Budweiser, they're also serving their product within the stadium. So you can only, if you see a Coke sign, you're only going to get Coke at the refreshment stand. But when it comes to this different level of licensing, it's creating experiences in many ways for the fan, for the team to expand their reach out to their fan base, because there
Right.
are people who come to stadiums and love to drink beer and stack up the cups, but also wine drinkers who look
Correct.
at their intake of alcohol a little bit differently, and
Yeah.
having this relationship, a wine um, carrier, a wine brand with a team could really help grow sales for them and really make the team look a little bit more sophisticated at the same time.
Correct. Yes. Yes. But what's even more interesting now with the factor, we are really now have become, because we started this in 2010, was the first time we did a wine for the Jets. And now you can still see it's their legacy wine. It's called Jets Uncorked. And it was a way for them to, again, you just said it, how do you create additional experiences from it, right? So it wasn't just about the bottle of wine, it was actually getting into tailgating, home gating, all of those other things. And then what we started to see, so again, fast forward now, the factor, we also started to see how there were sports teams and venues on how do they create other partnerships and sponsorships or agreements, as you talked to, as you referenced. There's many ways to do it, buy a sign, but how do you actually get your product and other cocktails to be made to drive more volume for the team and for the alcohol partner? So one is the license side. So that's one type of deal. How do we do team license product? And then the other piece of this is how do we strike other partnerships with alcohol companies like Constellation and others so that we can be driving more business for both sides, the sports team as well as the alcohol product. And that's what we step in to do.
So first and foremost, I can't let it go past. I'm glad there's a different type of wine that Jet fans can take part in, other than complaining about their team. But it's interesting that as these newer stadiums have been created, they're creating more experiences within the stadium, not just the tailgating, but there are wine bars within the stadium. There are different types of alcohol focused opportunities within the stadium. So are these licensing agreements that you're creating, are they providing I guess inclusion within those areas and perhaps even exclusivity, or is this something that is an add-on for the team to extend to their branding, and fans are going to want to buy this and bring it home because
Correct.
it has the Jets logo on it?
Correct. So it's kind of because right now I mean, we started that program for the Jets. The factor is no longer, like I said, we established the legacy brand, right? So that was, I'll call that a project basis. And so then to your point, like, so there's licensing deals, and now the factor right now, the contracts we're doing now are broader than just licensing deals. So we're actually looking at, so some of the programs that we're doing are, we're right now in conversations with how do you drive more cocktail sales? And that could be through a new technology that now is available that is allowing teams to provide, because most of the beverage staff, they're not bartenders per se, like, but they want to have, getting back to the experience, they want to have the high-end experiences for the fans, whether it's wine or whether it's alcohol. So now coming from a sales perspective, we're putting some of the sales deals together for some of these new technologies like craft cocktails on tap that can now be poured with, say, a Grey Goose at a stadium. So how do you look at it? And as I said, alcohol is such a broad place. So you have the license side of the business. So license deals with wines that we were actually showing. How do you actually put your logo on that product? And then now, how do we look at more of, like I said, a business strategy, and selling that to one, the team, two, the concessionaire, and three, the supplier that's selling through that. So that's actually the business solution that theFACTOR is selling now to stadiums and arenas.
And this is a great opportunity because there are many different ones that are not just refurbishing themselves and trying to set a bigger standard, but a lot of new builds that are happening right now. Here in Jacksonville, Florida, they're working on. I even started the reconstruction of the stadium here, which eventually by think 2028, the Jaguars will be able to move back into. They're going to be gone for a year. I think they're taking a whole level off for one season. But when they do come back in, we're going to be amazed of all the different visuals and opportunities and
Correct.
experiences that they're going to create. And I'm sure that this is something that the team might look into. Now,
Correct.
when you are having the conversations you're having, is it usually a team saying, "Hey, we're creating these new opportunities. We want to find something to connect us with a wine brand"? Or are you going to the team saying, "Hey, we have this opportunity with this wine company, and we'd love to be able to make a partnership with you"?
So it's almost like, and you know that I was at IMG before, right? So I kind of started my career in the, and said it was tennis, but then going into the sports space. And I use the example of what we do is almost like IMG's golf division, right? They represented athletes, they produced golf events. We also represented the PGA Tour. We did so it was kind of category experts, right? So we actually talk to teams, but I'm also talking to the venue owners as well, because then all of a sudden I can create a bigger partnership for a, gin and juice, Snoop and Dre's new product line, right? So how do you look at where, and so we can get hired by a brand or a supplier, we call them the alcohol side. So I'll use that as the talent, right? Or we can get hired and we work with the teams directly. Or we're also working with, as I said, venues specifically that are looking to create better partnerships and get bigger deals with the Grey Gooses of the world and others by creating a bigger value proposition, right? So really that's kind of where our conversations are happening. So like another example is USA Today. They now have a wine club. You probably haven't seen it yet. We did the RFP process for them. They wanted to look at how do we create a wine experience for our readers. So theFACTOR did the RFP process for them. They sought us out because we were experts in the wine space. And then we said, okay, how do we pick the best business partner for you? And then how do we look at what your objectives are as USA Today? And then how do we do that with selecting the right wine partner or wine business partner in that situation? So we can get called, and that's what I ultimately wanted to establish as an agency is you can get to licensed wine. So what we did was help find sourcing for that. Who can we source? How do we do the bottling? How do we create really the business plan for the wine release? And then how do we do that in other areas in alcohol? Because alcohol is so complicated. And it's very complicated for those that have been in these venues because alcohol state to state compliance and all of other things. So we really positioned ourselves to say, okay, we could get hired in multiple areas.
So you pretty much laid out the case of why companies and entities and teams need to hire you, because there's a lot of very confusing details that go
Correct.
into this. It's not just a yes or no decision, but there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of communicating, there's a lot of making sure that rules and laws are being followed to be able
Correct.
to make these partnerships happen.
Correct. And that to me was, and I think when people look for, how they're selling, you always want to look at what is your value proposition, right? And what's your belief system in what you are selling. And for me, it was really important to be looking at, well, how are we bringing value to our partners? And I saw that the understanding in alcohol, because you either had, really before, and there's a number of agencies that do similar things that what we do, but I think we're the only ones that sit in that understanding sports sponsorships and venues and things like that. And then understanding how alcohol plays in that world, because like you just referenced, there's legal implications, who owns the license. So alcohol, it all comes down to where are the licenses, because then you can either get fined by the state, you can get fined by the federal government. So really I saw an opportunity to kind of fill a hole, like The teams don't want to have to figure that out, right? They don't want to have to go, wait a minute, am I compliant? They're like, I just want to sell a sponsorship. So we were kind of making that revenue piece easier for them by being the experts in sort of this niche of a space within alcohol.
Well, it definitely is an exciting place to be because you really are having lots of different interesting conversations, some of it on the
Yeah,
legal side, some of it just on the planning side.
right.
What kind of fun connections have you made? What kind of experiences have you created that really that bring a smile to your face and that fans really enjoyed in the process?
I would say, I mean, the most recent one, which was a discovery for us as an agency, was when we were working with Del Mar Racetrack, right? So that's, a venue in Southern California. And all of a sudden we were asked, because they have sponsors, right? They have alcohol sponsors for the Breeders' Cup. So Del Mar as a venue was looking to do partnerships with alcohol, right? Like, so how do we look at partnerships for the broader venue? But then all of a sudden they had Breeders' Cup. And then the next piece, which again was really fun for me and new for us, was how do you train the staff, which many of them are volunteers or they kind of 200 people. And they're like, well, how do we help them be more efficient and be better ambassadors for the sponsors of Breeders' Cup? So we kind of stepped in to do that. And so we were hired on the venue side to say, okay, we want to maximize alcohol partnerships, but we know that there's some existing sponsors that we want to still make happy. So we kind of had to step in to kind of figure out, okay, one is we want to get new partners in, we want to keep the existing partners happy, and we want to train the beverage staff so that they could be more efficient in a Breeders' Cup menu. So we kind of stepped into that. So that was a whole new kind of area for us to get involved with, how we were working with local distributors, how we were working with local suppliers, and connecting the dots and putting together the communication plan for that. And everybody was super excited, super happy. So it was a big win for us and a fun one for me.
It definitely it sounds like a lot, and it definitely is. I know that
Yeah.
going to having run different staffs at a stadium, having been to different stadiums and seeing who is I guess some of them are part-time employees that come in just for the events. Some of them
Right.
really are volunteers. I know at our local stadium
Yeah.
in Jacksonville for the baseball team, you'll have different community groups come in and run concessions, and they'll get
Yeah.
a payment for their organization for their participation. So
Yeah.
that to get different types of people prepared to say the right thing to help in
Right.
the whole marketing concept really was a lot of work and effort on your end.
Yeah, it was, but you know what's so interesting, Howard? And this is the part that was like, because I think so many people look at like, oh my God, we have to go in and do everything. But what's great is one is you have the venue management team, right? So they pull their staff together, and at Del Mar, they're like incredibly professional, right? So we did it on, it was the day that they were bringing in staff, it was their, I'm trying to think of the word, but it was kind of the orientation, right? So it was orientation for Breeders' Cup. So we knew everybody was going to be there. And then we also, as I said, had the management team of the venue that was involved. So they were giving us the information. We were saying, listen, we want to make sure we're giving the message you want to give. And then what was great is then we leaned on the sponsors and the suppliers and said, here's an opportunity for you to touch this beverage staff. So we were kind of the guiders of it, right? So we didn't have to be all the arms and legs, which was wonderful, right? So it gave, it gave Maker's Mark the opportunity to come in and help train, which is what they want to do, right? The staff was like, oh my God, I'm learning from experts in the industry who, the volunteers were. So we kind of put together, we knew that there were assets and resources in their market already. We kind of put the puzzle together, if that makes sense, right? So So that was the part, and then it was a value and a win-win. We all, I hate that, overused term, but it was a win-win for everybody because then each piece was happy to be part of the end results. So it was fun.
It definitely
Yeah.
sounds fun. I'm sure they were all very happy with that kind of experience and really
Yes,
extending it to the fans' enjoyments in the process. And Peach
correct.
Cup is a pretty big event that happens every year.
Yeah, yeah. So it's great.
So, what else is out there? Like I think about stadiums and visually where you have signs everywhere where people are creating different types of partnerships. Chick-fil-A grabbing foul poles in different stadiums and getting um, areas that they can sell within the stadiums themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously, going to wine and what's the next thing that there are opportunities for sports teams, sports venues, sports entities to really partner up with.
Well, if you're looking things outside of my category, I have not truly been following that, right? So I think there's constantly, whether it's Chick-fil-A or others, but I still think so. Again, I'm gonna keep going back to why I love the space I'm in because we can kind of pivot in so many ways. So you're seeing speakeasies they want to have happen, right? Like experiential things. But what I keep saying to a lot of the folks we're in conversations with is like, we did a program for IHG, which was a bourbon tasting. Like you can have liquor that creates the experiential component for all types of companies, right? In different situations. So all of a sudden we had the hotel group that was looking to engage kind of a higher end, like VVIP experience. And I'm like, well, a great way to do that is give them things they'll never be able to taste in their lifetime, right? Like, $1,000 bourbons, like nobody's buying that. So we created sort of a pocket of that. So to me, again, I'm selfishly like when I keep looking at things, I'm like, especially with these teams and venues, like I think you could do a fun like mocktail event with Chick-fil-A to create an engagement experience. I'm making that up. But
Right.
like I keep saying that I think you have to create customer engagement is where it is, right? So you can have the visuals and the visuals to me are the obvious, right? Like where can I put them, right? Where can I get another piece of signage? But ultimately, and this was when I was again IMG at Cara and others, ultimately it's the B2B, the business to business strategy is more important that's happening behind the scenes with these teams and leagues most of the time, than it is just the customer piece, right? The consumer piece. And I think what like people have to do if product are getting involved with teams, it's how are you creating the maximization outside of the stadium with the fan base, right? Like how do you create the fan engagement? So if you see a Chick-fil-A, they should be doing something out in the marketplace that allows customers who aren't in that venue, right, to feel that they're a part of the team experience, right? So we did a lot of that with the wine. Like we did a lot of programs with Total Wine. We did home gating themes in grocery stores, Kroger stores, because you saw that a lot, and that's what baseball loved about the wine programs we were doing was it wasn't just touching the people that were in the venue, right? It was people who weren't going to the game that wanted to watch the game. How do you kind of create that, fun experience for them to plan with their family or with their friends or, that allows them to still feel connected to the team. And I think those are the sponsorships that actually work really well, frankly.
Well, it's really clear that you have a great vision over all of the aspects and pieces of what it takes to create a good partnership and place it in the places where you're finding people as opposed to just having it being found in the places where they may be going. And
Correct.
that really is powerful for every part of the partnership in seeing success. So it's
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's fun. It's really you really have a lot of creativity on a day-to-day basis in coming up with these concepts, in finding the partners, to find the right places to put it in, and really kind of envisioning where the growth opportunities are for everyone involved. That's
Yeah.
it's a good way to wake up every morning.
It is, but you have to make sure that you also have your priorities, as we all know. Like, and you're in the business, right, of sales, right? Like, and helping people to understand how to be successful in selling. And I think one is you want to be excited about what you're selling, but you also have to know how do you get from, how do you keep yourself in a prioritizing perspective? Like you said, like I have to catch myself every day to say, okay. There's so many things that I want to get to, but like what's the low hanging fruit so I can continue to actually, achieve those goals and then those financial goals, right? Because you can start to chase too many things, or grow too fast, which, I've also been in that situation too, which is its own, sort of, management nightmare, right? So, all of those things have to be taken into consideration as you're selling, right? And as you're building business is, how you make sure you've got your eye on the prize, right?
It's very important because it still comes down to a conversation between one person and another,
Yeah.
asking, are you interested in something? And then trying to get a yes or a no out of the
Right.
person so you can move on to the next one, that being the case. But
Right.
it is definitely like I know when I was working in minor league baseball, going out and selling baseball made things a lot more fun and made it an easier sale, so to speak, than selling a widget that they may or may not can see the vision of how they can use it. And it's the job of the salesperson to help them see that vision, or ask the right questions so that this is answering the issues that they're having. I think it definitely leads to very different types of conversations that you're having in the sales process.
Well, and I think like I also think now with, AI is the big topic for everything, but it allows us to come in smarter. And if you can come into a conversation knowing like the value proposition that you think is there for them, because that's always been my thing, and I'm all anchored in research, right? So I would always see like where and what was happening, and that's why I said in alcohol, I was watching sponsorship deals in wine at $70,000. I'm like, that's ridiculous. They should be 4 times that amount of money, which then we started that path. But you had to create the value proposition first so that you could go into that meeting and then say, hey, here's what I think is where you can make more money. Or, as I said, the value proposition. This is why what I'm selling to you like meets a need, right? And then you can get the questions from them that they might say, wait a minute, and I'm actually having a conversation with the venue group, same type of thing. I don't have all the information because I'm still not certain with what, but I've got a good idea of where I can drive more revenue for them, which is why they'll take the meeting, first of all.
Sure.
And then it allows me to say, here's where I think the revenue is. And even if I'm wrong, they might say, no, Diane, we actually have, that's already filled for us. But it allows me to open up then where it's not filled. And then I can come back and then after that conversation, have more of an understanding of where my value proposition is in the follow-up proposal, you know? So to me, that's always with now I can find, that sort of thing of knowing what they're looking for, right? They're trying to sell more product, right? So how do I go in suggesting what I think I know is a solution? And then we can have an open kind of back and forth together.
It really is a great feeling when you are coming back with solutions,
Right.
and even more so when you are doing this research and presenting them solutions that they didn't know they had the question to ask and had the issue about, but yet here you are creating new opportunities for them. It really is.
Yeah.
It's exciting that this is a direction that you found throughout your successful career and how it's thriving for you now and the great opportunities you're creating. So, Diane, I really thank you so much for joining us for this conversation and sharing all this wonderful concepts that most people don't think about even when they're seeing a logo on a bottle.
Yeah, well, thanks so again, always so much fun. It's just been great. So thank you for having me and love the conversation and appreciate all the positive feedback. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. It is great to have these opportunities to create new concepts, new opportunities for, in this situation, a team, an entity to find new ways to create revenue, to create experiences for their customer, their fan base. And it's exciting all the things that Diane has done and will be doing moving forward with her company and the relationships she's created. But it always gives you the opportunity to be creative and to do your research to find the answers that your prospects may be looking for that they may not know it yet. So keep that in mind. Go out, have a great rest of today, and we will see you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Sales Momentum. I hope you picked up valuable insights to fuel your sales success. If you're ready to take your sales game even further, visit howardwolpoffswc.com for coaching, resources, and more strategies to help you close more deals and build lasting momentum. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and keep pushing forward. Until next time, keep selling with confidence.